back with another Genshin Impact video. Another Genshin Impact. VARS dropped a video called How to Fix Genshin Impact. Something along those lines. How to Genshin Impact be a better game. I dropped my own version of this video in January 28th. My main talking points were the talents, weekly boss mats, crown, chronicle wish, standard banners, chest, artifact loadouts, the artifact transmitter, which is still buns, sanctifying elixir, events, storytelling, and endgame. Everyone that told me I was wrong about any of this, guess what? Hoyoverse said I was actually correct and then put it in a survey. And then you had other content creators begging people to fill out the survey because they thought it was the time for change. So just for everyone who told me to EOS myself IRL after you watch this video, you owe me an apology. With that being said, let's see what VARS has to say. Dalway watching. Bro, literally after I dropped this, a week or two later, they dropped that survey. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's time for a change. It's time for a change. It's like, okay, like I didn't fucking say this and get yelled at, right? But anyways, let's see what VARS has to say. VARS been making some really great content, so yeah.
Tons of videos have been made about the current state of the game in more ways than one. One aspect in particular that's been the target of scrutiny is quality of life. More specifically, how Genshin's been lagging behind in quality of life. Quality of life.
I will say, I'm going to try to keep the pause to a minimum. Genshin feels the worst out of the big four. Genshin feels the most dated. It feels genuinely like a second gen. Yeah, no, he's been making really good content lately, yeah, genuinely, like straight up.
It's an interesting dynamic in gacha games. Having played a great many of them myself, I don't think there's any genre that puts anywhere near the same amount of priority towards it. It takes years or even decades for mainstream games or MMOs to introduce quality of life features, but in gacha games you see a new thing being added every other month it seems. Not a bad thing per se, but if you stick to
a new what?
Gacha games, you see a new thing being added every other month it seems. Not a bad thing per se, but if you stick to a gacha game for a year or more, a good one that is, you'll find a number of important changes being added to the game for the sake of convenience. Genshin Impact's a bit slow in that regard, and it's only become more aggravating for the player base to have asked for things to be done for years, only for it to rarely if ever take place. In my video on Genshin losing popularity, of the 5,000 or so comments, a huge portion of them were based on how the game's user experience ranks close to the worst among the mainstream titles, a statement that has grown more and more noticeable with every improvement competing titles have made. So for today, I want to make a video detailing as many
I'm surprised that the dislike ratio is not that bad. Good for him.
Changes I can think of that will improve the game's experience for everyone. After watching this, if you feel like I left out anything, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. I suppose while you're down there, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. Anyway, let's get started. Quite possibly the most requested feature of all time is artifact loadouts. It's practically a meme at this point where players are fiending for loadouts every time a new patch is implemented.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie to you. If you think what we have right now is a loadout, you're on drugs. Straight up. If you think what the game has right now is a loadout, this is a loadout. A Call of Duty loadout system. That is a loadout. Not a preset that you can apply to one character for one extra artifact set. Not how that works. Pushing back Shaznia kind of woke up the normies. I think they realized that the game is nowhere near as profitable as what it once was, and they have to push Shaznia back because they're getting a lot of heat. And honestly, because a lot of those contracts expired, they're getting more heat than usual from people that would love it. Although, you know, please add edible functionality, please. Dude, it's just insane to me, but okay.
I'll be frank, I don't think we even need them in the game. The only time I would
Alright, I think he's bugging on that, but whatever.
See them being actively used is if there are characters who routinely swap between 2 or 3 different sets, but for the most part, the majority of the cast only uses one each, with alternative options being side grades at best. Realistically, if they were to implement this, it wouldn't really be used as much, since unlike HSR for example, units don't have dual purposes like how you can go follow-up attack or break on Himeko, or how you can go pure fiction relics or normal DPS relics on a couple Air Edition characters.
True, Phoenix,
I suppose if we had more endgame content variety, that could merit the need for loadouts, but at the moment, there's none. So why do people clamor for it to be implemented so aggressively? Memes aside, it's less about the feature itself and more about optics. The fact that it's been heavily requested for years and still neglected gives off the impression of the devs not really caring to adhere to.
I'm going to be very transparent with you. I don't agree with this. I feel like it's the combination of both. Like, I partially disagree. Like, it's optics, but it's also genuinely character. You know, Hu Tao has 3 possible sets to use, right? You know, your Kuki Shinobu has 2 possible sets. A lot of characters can use different sets. Raiden will be on Emblem. then maybe you want to put them on something else. Like, whatever, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, he's DPS. All right, well, who's using DPS Yanfei other than 2 people? The worst quality of life they added was easier searching through the mail. Bro, Eagle, when they added easier searching through the mail, I actually thought that was a joke. I saw that shit on Twitter and thought someone was memeing. But it turns out that they weren't. It was actually legit. I used to. You're the one of the 2 people, Naughty. You're one of the 2 people in the whole fucking 1 quadrillion population of the world.
To player feedback. So adding this will be less of an actual quality of life mechanic and more of a way to lend credence to Hoyo's intent.
But whatever.
Next change is another heavily requested one, dialogue skip button.
No, but the story's great!
For every player to be a story lover, even as someone who studied narrative storytelling and video game storytelling in college, sometimes I just don't feel like sitting through paragraphs of what is ultimately meaningless banter between characters for hours on end, like the R&R request. If this was a movie or anime where we could see tons of emotions and actions or visualization, that would be a different story, but you'd be lucky to see any character moving around or being expressive during conversations. One more issue is that several gameplay elements or areas on the map are locked behind said tedious dialogue, like the R&R request. One of the biggest things players were happy to see in WUWA is the option to get a TLDR of what's happening in the cutscene before skipping it, greatly appeasing those.
I don't, like, I feel like when people are not pro, and this isn't even a pro-consumer thing, but giving options to your consumers is just always a positive. If there's too many options, then yes. But this isn't like a fast food place where there's a million fucking options. You can get a burger with a million things like Five Guys or something. This is simply allowing people to skip the story. And if you were competent developers, you would have a replay function for the story. I just don't know why people fight against this. You know? I just don't know how people fight against this. And they rushed and they said they rushed the story, and so now you have to get nods and cry is true. Better than HSR storytelling. I mean, that's not saying much. I ain't gonna lie to you, brother. It comes with Five Guys. A burger does come with Five Guys. Now I could use more than one support in the team, but Natlin set bonuses work for one. There is no better moment for loadouts. That's what I'm saying, Sass. It's so fucking weird. Hearing Timmy 100 time, dude. Yeah, it's.
Who, while they may sit through the main storyline due to
the risk is they reduce the quality of content. The quality of content because people could skip. They should instead use it as a metric, and their writing team should have 0 people. Yeah, exactly. It's not like you should add it, and if your story's good, people won't use it. I played Genshin for the gameplay. I really enjoyed the gameplay at one point. I didn't play. I only played for Fontaine's story, right? Everything else I thought was kind of eh. So yeah, it's just
don't really care for side quest stories and whatnot, like the R&R quest. Additionally, the most annoying cases of unskippable dialogue would definitely be the ones where the characters don't even talk, yet for some reason you can't just mash click and get through everything. Like the fucking R&R quest.
True.
Please, Hoyo, just give us the option to skip stuff. People who like reading and listening can still do so, while those who just want to get to the new area or something can be able to in a reasonable amount of time. Third change, can we please take on the same weekly boss more than once a week? HSR, CCC, and WUWA also have a 3-time claim limit, but they have the decency to let you fight the same boss 3 times. Genshin still, to this day, only lets you fight them once a week.
Zenless Zone Zero allows you to fight the boss infinitely. The first 3 times are free, then you need to spend resin. Just adopt ZZZ's thing. Genshin Impact is just actually, not only that they limit you, but if you don't get a fucking what is it called? Not a fragile resin. I don't even remember the name of the item anymore. What's that little white item? A dream solvent. If you don't get a dream solvent, you're fucked. If you don't get a dream solvent and you literally get everything that's opposite, you're cooked. Also, what's good, Crown? What up, baby? Yeah, it's gatekeeping to the max to get you to keep logging in. Sonora's fucking
week, which means anytime a new weekly boss comes out and the character needs their materials, you physically are unable to max out that character for upwards of a month. You need 12 materials, I believe, or was it 9? I'm pretty sure it's 12, considering it starts at level 7.
Now if I put 1
to 2 materials per week. So yeah, people weren't even able to max out Mavuika until like February, which is kind of insane. I mean, not saying they have to, Mavuika one-shotted everything even at 177. But again, quality of life.
They're going to do 1 pause per week.
They're not game-changing features, but that's all the more reason why they're important to add. It doesn't take...
No, they are game-changing features. They're absolutely game-changing features.
To do this,
absolutely.
But it's like when Asian moms randomly fix you a plate of fruit without you asking for it. It's a gesture to show that they care about this stuff. Change number 4, remove the fucking day of the week. I hate this so much. I'm sure most people have a schedule or write down what they plan to spend their resin on each day, but I can't be bothered to do that. There are so many times where I want to work on a character
Absolutely,
on a Tuesday,
Ryder. Yep.
only to find out their materials are a Monday-Thursday thing, forcing me to have to wait 2 days to actually get to it, but then by Thursday I forget and use my resin on something else. Why is
How'd
this
they remove this,
the
Happy Feet?
Sure, it may have been a fun little gimmick to show the passage of time, especially during lockdown when most people lost their sense of time, but can they just please allow us to farm whatever materials we want no matter what day? It's just meaningless time gating for no reason.
The thing is, it made sense at the beginning of the game because they were first establishing themselves. They wanted people to come back. We're on year 5. I have nothing else to say other than these devs are just fucking assholes. They don't care about you, don't care about their time. It's very common in older gachas, exactly. And now we have progressed, and Hoyoverse fucks up. They then take the things that they fucked up with, optimize it, and put it into their next game. And they don't go back to fix their old game. And people defend this shit. They just fucking defend it. I don't know how.
Number 5. Condensed resin to be used on boss domains.
Yeah,
this
true.
is kind of a personal request of mine. It's become muscle memory at this point for me to log on every day and instantly go to the crafting bench to condense my resin. That way, I only have to do an artifact or a material domain 5 times instead of 10. Several times I autopiloted and condensed my resin, forgetting today I was supposed to farm ascension materials that drop from a boss.
Left behind, yep.
Except you can't, despite world bosses also costing 40 resin. They're the same energy cost, so if they can also let us exchange a condensed resin to claim them, that would be great. Change 6. Remote access. Even though I'm a huge Paper Mario and Pokemon Coliseum fan, I really hate games that don't let you save wherever you want. There's probably a logistical reason for it, maybe to save memory or whatever by not letting you save in any location, but for something essential like the crafting bench, having to teleport to a town every time you want to craft something is...
Just put it in your back. Doesn't HSR have that? I know WUA has that. Doesn't HSR have that as well? Just a crafting bench in your backpack? Why don't they have that? Yes? Like, what is this?
Lightly. I suppose the same can be said for expeditions and claiming commission rewards too. Look,
should all be in the backpack.
Too, best NPC world, but when
fuck that extra applesauce. Fuck that bullshit on God.
To have to keep going back every single time. If they want to meet us in the middle, maybe make it so we can craft a one-time use remote bench, like if it was Minecraft. I wouldn't mind spending 4 iron or wood per day.
No. There's no meeting in the middle. There's no meeting in the middle. And this is not a shot at VARS. Allow people to claim their shit in their fucking inventory and synthesize in their fucking inventory. You don't need to speak to Ed Asher Applesauce. That asks so much fucking time for no reason. Stop it. There's no meeting in the middle. They have made $5 billion+ in the last 3 years by itself. They could fucking change this. No, stop this. It's just like, bro, just fucking add it. More positive choices for the player base leads to good things. Also, you need to go to craft table. Like, why? It's fucking stupid. It's so dumb. It makes no sense.
Bench. If anything, that would add a bit more fun to the game.
Fuck them. Yeah, fuck you, dog.
Once a week, I usually take a few minutes to collect like 20 crystal flies to keep my supply of condensed resin good to go. But point being, please give us remote access to these things. It may sound overly spoiled or entitled for me to complain about taking 10 more seconds to teleport to a town, but it's less about Genshin not doing it and more about everyone else doing it that forces Genshin to have to follow along. If every other game gives you that convenience, it makes the games that don't have it feel that much more tedious. That's why quality of life is so important. It's not the feature itself that people notice, rather lack thereof. They emphasize that a lot during my UX classes. People don't really notice something when it's working well, they only notice it when it's not working or when it's not there at all. Okay. Change 7. General Material Conversion. Genshin gives you the ability to convert attribute stones and weekly boss materials into other materials of the same category, but it would be nice if they could do that for all materials. Being able to convert, say, prosperity talent mats to gold mats, or kindling to contention, justice to equity, freedom to battle.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
On that note, weekly boss materials can only convert to other materials that drop from the same boss, and they don't have any intention of allowing the same weekly boss to be taken off.
They should just get rid of the dream solvent system. They should get rid of the dream solvent system and drop, if they're going to have 3 different boss pieces, you drop all 3 different boss pieces for that run. That's it. You drop all 3 of them and you give the player all 3, especially if you're only going to be able to farm it once per week. It's just fucking dog shit. No conversion. Give them all 3 pieces from that boss and let them pick and choose what they need. And if they don't need one, they save it for the next character. Oh no, they pre-farmed. Oh my god, they'll never play the game again. What the fuck?
On twice per week, then the option to convert other boss materials to that one would be nice. I'm sitting on like 100 development mats that have been collecting dust on account of Hoyo not releasing a Mostat character in years. For that matter, a general material substitute would be helpful too.
That makes sense though, I get that.
Tiers of whatever thingamadoohickeys that can be used in place of any essential materials you have. If they could bring those to Genshin, I would greatly appreciate it. Having mentioned development, that brings me to our next change. More of a new feature instead of a change, but I like them to add a special challenge difficulty for every weekly boss. Not for materials or anything, but maybe for leaderboards or bragging rights or something. Even though the newer weekly bosses like the Knave and Primal Fire can be reasonably difficult if you don't know the mechanics, the majority of these bosses go down like lead balloons with a halfway decent team. In fact, you could straight up skip half of their mechanics by one-tapping them right away. Basically, I'm asking for Genshin to do the tactical hologram treatment, make the same boss but make them insanely difficult, maybe for extra currency or something we can work towards. Something player anxiety, oh to hell with that.
They just won't do it. Like, they just actively won't do it. We're supposed to get a new endgame mode in 5.7. So not this patch that's coming out on Tuesday, but the following patch. So we'll see how that goes. Probably will be dog shit, right? But we'll see. We'll see. Difficulty with casual gacha game. The thing is, they can make difficult content. They just choose not to. And they can actually make interesting content. Like the Natlan Tribe homies. I don't remember their names. I fought a couple of them. They were really dope. They're actually fun to play. They were easy, but they were fun because they had real mechanics to it, right? You got to give credit where credit's due. They just won't do that consistently. I'll give more players anxiety. Yeah, it's like, all right. Like, okay.
Kind of a shame too, given most of these bosses
have elaborate cool. Local legends are dope.
Phases.
Yeah.
We just don't care though, because we nuke everything in one hit.
True.
For the next change, I say this because Honkai Star Rail has this. Every artifact set should be available in the Strongbox the instant they release. I get that Hoyo doesn't.
Listen, man. Saying something's better than the Imaginarium Theater is like, dude, like, I don't know. I was going to come up with a really crazy analogy. Anything is better than the Imaginarium Theater. It's like saying, yeah, drinking soda is better than drinking dog shit. Like, the Imaginarium Theater is fucking horrible. The worst game mode I've played in a video game ever. And I really mean that. Like, I genuinely mean that shit. Especially for a gacha game. I don't know what fucking smoke and crack they were doing. But, like, you know, but I have 70 plus characters built. Dude, the Imaginarium Theater, I should make a video essay just on that mode itself. It's just inherently flawed. You know, it's my name is May and I am better than you. Yo, let's go, Dahlia. How are you? Good afternoon, Stinky. How we doing, Stink?
But the rate at which new sets come in is so painstakingly slow. In defense of Hoyo, they have been speeding things up a little, but remember when we didn't get version 1 artifacts until version 3, or version 2 artifacts until version 4? Considering how mind-numbing the artifact grind is, if they could let us convert bricks into new pieces that, let's be real, will also be bricks, that would alleviate the grind a little bit. If you're interested in seeing all the artifact changes I had in mind, I actually do have a recent video on it for you to watch. Again, more of a feature than a change, but something that would be fun to try out is an infinite spiral abyss mode where players can progressively go deeper and deeper into floors 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, so on and so forth, with exponentially ramping difficulty to see how far they can get. Just like
I think VARS is right now is doing a great job with this video, genuinely. But I think some of these, and I might make a video on this and I'll record it off stream before I leave for a couple days and upload it. When you criticize gacha games, especially Hoyoverse games, you have to be grounded in reality of what they're going to do and what they're willing to change. And an infinite spiral abyss mode is never happening. I don't think there's any new spiral abyss floors ever coming, right? This really sounds great, but it's not rooted in reality. And I think I 100% agree with his take, but unfortunately, this is just not happening. Could they do it? Absolutely, but they won't do it. Some of the things that they can do are technically in the code already, right? The unlocking talent days, that's already available for people who come back to the game after a certain amount of days, or if you're a completely new player, right? There's certain things that are already in the code that they physically are just not hitting the switch on. Other things that are going to take development time, they won't do because they're so behind on development already. They're so fucked. It just won't happen. It's the unfortunate, realistic truth when you're dealing with this company.
Like the weekly boss challenge mode, I think a big reason why people feel so bored in the game lately is that once you do all the events and stuff, there really is no reason to keep playing or working towards anything. Even casual players need something to want to build towards. Right now, there just isn't an incentive to do anything other than the bare minimum, and so adding content, even if there's no beneficial reward to it, can be enough to make players want to keep going further with their units. Or they could do something really simple, perhaps common EXP materials, or maybe even trophies to add to their account, whatever.
Even with the $1 billion they have, brother, even with the $1 billion they have.
For the case, I'll be begging Hoyo to add more endgame content until they eventually do. Taking a break from new stuff for a moment, I want to bring some attention to old stuff. Cinnabar Spindle, Festering Desire, Ultimate Overlord's Mega Magic Sword. What do these all have in common? You can't get them forever. Albedo's unique two-part story, Unreconciled Stars, Labyrinth Warriors, you can't access those either. Genshin has a ton of great flagship events over the years, some that contributed a ton to the continuity and/or gameplay, but none of those are accessible anymore, which is a huge loss of content in a game that desperately could use it. Honkai Star Rail WUA and I believe ZZZ let you play through flagship events at any time you want, even being able to collect rewards from them. Granted, you still miss out on the time-limited rewards, which usually contain refinement mats for the event weapons, but not being able to access old events really sucks in a game that doesn't do reruns. Most gachas have reruns for events specifically for this purpose, to allow players who weren't around back when they first came out to experience them, or for those who didn't get to finish all the quests to finally do so. HSR even lets you buy old event light codes. Hoyo needs to do this for Genshin. If anything, it could be helpful in making filler versions more worthwhile, running the flagship event but also rerunning an old one. Or they can do a part 2 type thing, reuse the same assets but write up some new dialogue or add new items. For the next change, I want character choice banner rotation. The Chronicle Wish is a start. Credit.
It'll never happen. It'll just never happen. Just won't happen.
Words do. But when HSR made it so you can select from a pool of version 1 units to replace the 50-50 losses, I can't fathom why they didn't think of that for Genshin. Though we were promised more standard banner units and even just got one recently in Mizuki, letting us choose 3 characters to replace the 9 we can roll in the standard banner would be a great way for people to get their hands on old characters.
The reason why they won't do this is because they're doing the Chronicled Wish banner. They're not doing this specifically so they can make money off a Chronicle Wish. Because if they were to do this and to give you a couple extra characters in that 50-50 pool, they, in their mind, are thinking that people are less incentivized to, let's say, roll for, and I don't know, Alhaitham, if you could possibly lose to Alhaitham, but Alhaitham shows up on a Chronicle Wish or a rerun. Tillian's 100% right. Genshin hates player choice. They absolutely do. There's just no way around it. So, in theory, this is amazing. But it will never fucking happen. If they added Hu Tao to the standard after Hu Tao's been power crept by 2 other main DPSs, right? But they won't do that. They're going to save that for Chronicle Wish and for reruns. That's like, the game is just fundamentally flawed, bro.
Especially since we're getting to a point where
you choose one of the characters from Chronicle Wish, though. You could freely choose one of the characters from Chronicle Wish, though. Don't worry about it. It's
was forced to do reruns for multiple units at a time to fit everyone in. I would prefer they allow it to be thrown into the Acquaint Fate pool instead of just for that banner, but I also didn't mind meeting them halfway. Getting constellations of old characters can be a way for them to keep up with the modern ones. C3, C4 Yelan, for example, would certainly be a caliber above C0, C1. On that note, while we're talking about pulling, a very generous change for players would be the ability to acquire subsequent constellations of a character through Star Glitter. Wuthering Waves has been doing this for their sequence bands, and I think it's a nice gesture for 2 reasons.
Dude, I know I'm coming off like a big fucking hater, but it's like literally just not happening. But they should do it. Ferry, does power creep in Genshin matter? I remember people claiming with 4 stars recently. It does matter. Recently, it's gotten pretty bad. But they should do this. I think Woolwood did a great job with this. But yeah, it won't happen. They literally just want to milk everyone. And then after there's Shneznaya, then there's one more region after that. Then the game is going to fucking EOS and Genshin 2 Electric Boogaloo. People just said it's just not going to happen once they're just reducing the fate point for weapons. Yeah, but that happened 4 years later, though. You know? That happened 4 years later. Like, should they do this? Absolutely. But they're so out of touch with everything. And the thing is, the fan base is so out of touch as well, because there were people on Twitter trying to bombard the feedback survey by saying, like the one where they said, do you want weekly talents unlocked? You want boss limits unrestricted. They literally made Twitter threads about it. I wish I could fucking find it. I should have bookmarked it, saying tell them that the game is fine. We don't need these fucking woo dogs and these core bots infesting the game with false information. The game is fine. It's fucking mental illness. It's like actual mental illness, you know? Even with all these changes, I think I'll go back to Genshin, really. I'm going to try that new story. I might try it the night it comes out. But I'm going to give it a shot and see how it is. I really do hope it's good. Yeah, I really hope it's amazing, you know? They had answers in that survey only treating us like kids. I know, it's...
1. The vast majority of players aren't able to get their hands on more than one copy of a 5-star character if they're free to play,
it's crazy,
unless
bro.
they save up the time and or are extremely
you.
lucky. At the same time, recently anyway, Hoyo's been tailoring 5-star characters to really pressure you to get their first and second constellations, which are financially inaccessible for most people. 2. It basically introduces a pity for the pity. I don't have the exact link off the top of my head, but someone shared that they lost every single 50-50 since the beginning of the game, which put them deadass at the bottom 0% of players in 50-50 luck. Having this would make it so if you lose 10 50-50s in a row, you could eventually get compensated a 5-star constellation. It's just something I think most gachas already do, not just WUA. I recall seeing them in Blue Archive as well. Second to last change, Resin Overflow System. Very simple one. I know they recently bumped up the cap to like 200 so that we don't have to redo it within 24.
I honestly don't understand the design choices in Genshin. The devs aren't unaware of player issues at some point. Wouldn't the players accept that the game is sort of maintenance only, drip feeding quality of life when needed? I don't understand it either, man. I don't understand it either. I just think Hoyoverse. I only think the reason why changes are happening now, if you want my honest opinion, and maybe you're gonna say I'm tinfoil hatting here, I think the only reason you ever see genuine, real quality of life that's been happening currently with Genshin and HSR, although it's really not that great, is because of Zenless Zone Zero's flop. Zenless Zone Zero is a game that they had multiple betas for with TV systems, and the multiple feedback multiple times was, hey, we don't like TVs, we don't like TVs, we don't like TVs. And they pretty much said, no, fuck you. You're going to like what the fuck we feed you. And that's it. You're going to shut the fuck up and play the game. And people stop playing the game. And so then they're like, oh my God, we're not this indestructible force that we thought we were. They're pretty fucking strong, but they're not indestructible if the fan base gathers up more than 2 brain cells, right? And so I think we're now seeing them try to kind of be a bit more attentive because of that negative feedback. That's why I think these types of things, we have these types of conversations, and they have that nod cry live stream. I don't think you have that nod cry live stream if Zenless Zone Zero is successful. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't even think they push back Shneznaya if Zenless Zone Zero was not successful. / Natlin, right? People are starting to kind of wake up to it a little bit. We fucking thank God, right? Honkai Impact 3 Part 2 also flopped as well. I play quite casually, mainly because I like Yoimiya, but I feel like my legs are tied after playing WoW. The movement feels super slow. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. It's absolutely rough.
4 hours.
It's definitely rough. I got you in 2 seconds to this. I got you 2 seconds, brother.
We effectively have a cap of 400 instead of 200, but giving players overflow energy at a slower rate is becoming more widely implemented these days. For that reason, I expect Hoyo to do the same for Genshin. Sometimes players just have to skip a few days, whether for vacation, burnout, or for whatever reason. Knowing they're salvaging at least a portion of resin helps alleviate the FOMO a bit. Lastly, and one of the biggest ones, give us better multiplayer incentives.
True.
I said this before, I'll say it again. Genshin should have been an MMORPG. I haven't touched multiplayer basically at all in the past few years, mostly because everything is easier to do by yourself and there's also not much of a reason to. Occasionally, events might encourage you to play with others or even mandate you to, but generally speaking, there's no practical incentive behind it. Something that could serve as maybe an extra layer of progression, or heck, even something like a raid boss that can be taken on by multiple parties of 4. I might just be looking at this from too much of an MMO point of view, but multiplayer's been a sore spot for the game, especially for casual players who want to hang out with friends.
Optimizing multiplayer and creating activities where real multiplayer mechanics are there would generate them so much more money. Imagine if there's like a raid or a domain, let's say domain, where you have to be AR 45. Same for WoW, by the way. Absolutely. Absolutely same for WoW. Also, Miles, I love you. Welcome in, brother. Imagine if there's a domain where you go in there. Yeah, I paused the video. YouTube, my bad. I paused the video. I don't remember what I said, but yeah, more co-op equals more money, right? if they literally just added really good co-op events and you need to be a higher rank, people are going to play the game. They're going to wind up spending money because they're playing the game. And then, yeah, it's pretty much easy. The use government confirmed Genshin players are children. True.
Adding things you can only access in multiplayer would be a big boon for the game's staying power.
Yeah, multiplayer would be great,
so anyway, there are at least a dozen more quality of life changes or content features
great video,
we could
VARS.
talk about,
great video.
But I think I'll go with the 15 I chose for now. Genshin still has the potential to be a frontrunner for the gacha industry, but for them to restore player goodwill, they can't just do the bare minimum. It's all about going above and beyond, whether or not those features are actually conducive to a better experience. Essentially, it demonstrates attention to detail and a desire to improve the game in whatever way they can, without having to be told. If you look at other gacha games, either now or in the past, they would usually implement quality of life features soon after players have been clamoring for them, or they would just implement them without us asking for it in the first place. But I feel like for Genshin, they're only...
How many years are we allowed to say a game has potential? Well, that's the thing. I mean, genuinely, the game does have potential, but it's to the point where, like you said, how many fucking years are we going to sit here and say that? Again, you missed it, but I only think the reason why they're getting changes now is because the Zenless Zone Zero's flop. And I think they see the Genshin numbers overall are down. Content creators are trying to branch out that wouldn't normally want to branch out. They fired everyone in the Hoyo staff on the English side. Like, they're desperate for creators. They reached out to me for a contract, you know? Like, they're fucking desperate. So I think this is why we're now finally seeing changes.
Compelled to do so if the pressure from other competitors becomes too great. But that's not the right mindset to have. You don't want to follow what other people are doing. You want to be the person trailblazing everything. In any case, what do you guys think about my list? Do you agree or disagree with my choices? Let me know.
VARS video, great video, man. Everyone go follow VARS. I'm out this bit.